We'll call to order the Diversion Authority Land Management Committee meeting of June 24th, 2020 to order. And if we could get a roll call, please.
Mayor Judd?
Here.
Bob Zimmerman?
Here.
Bruce Grubb?
Here.
Chuck Henriksen? Dwayne Breitling? Jenny Monjo? John Strand? Kevin Campbell? Corey Peterson?
Kevin is just joining now.
Thank you. Corey Peterson? Mary Sherling?
And I am here. Does that give us enough for quorum?
No, we need two more. Nathan Borbaum?
Nathan is here.
Roger Olson?
Kevin is here.
Yes, thank you, Kevin.
So that was one more we got, right?
Yeah, we need one more individual.
Okay.
Wait a few more minutes, maybe.
It is a lovely day. Well, let's just go along down the agenda, and we can come back and approve the minutes either when we get enough people or at the next meeting. But are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Looking good, Eric?
Nothing from me.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and move right into item number 4, the property acquisition status report.
I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you guys can see that, and then I'll scroll down to agenda item number 4. I'm assuming, Mary, you'll come back if we have more members to approve the minutes and that sort of thing.
Yes, that's my intention.
Okay. So in your packet, starting on page 5, is the usual monthly property acquisition status report. The cover page is more of an index, just to get people familiar with where the various pieces and parts of the project exist. The second page, on page 6, is the overall status map, and I will zoom in just a little bit on that for you on the screen here. As in the past several months, we continue to make slow and steady progress. We've acquired another I think it's 8 or 10 parcels in the last month since we met previously. And so those are, good activities, and we're making more progress. You can see more and more green along the channel. A few purple squares up on the north end. That means we have purchase agreements signed and we're just waiting to close until the closing date. Although the good news on things being acquired is sort of counterbalanced by the steady blue colors along the western portion of the channel, west of West Fargo and west of Horace, as well as the blue parcels along the southern embankment Reach 1. So we're continuing to go through the negotiating process on those steps, and we'll be talking a little bit more about this under the Cass County Joint Board update, but the statutory process that they're following is complex, and we're getting closer and closer to taking more and more serious actions. So I'll share more about that later, but just as a preview. So we are making good, but sort of steady and slow progress. Moving on in the status report, usual format. I do think in the next month or two, we'll probably move this cultural mitigation page towards the back end of the report because most of these are already acquired. Environmental monitoring easements. This is for the biotic and geomorphic monitoring program. And we've acquired everything that we need this year with the exception of a handful of parcels in Clay County and 2 in Wilkin County. And with the COVID issues impacting court dates, we're working through the court system to get those dates established to get the rates of entries. Regarding the BioGeo monitoring program, we did hear from the Corps that their survey crews will be in the area starting that monitoring program in early August. So we'll be coordinating with them as that date approaches. Moving on the status, you can see on the channel, all the appraisals are done. The yellow colored parcels are properties where we are working on MOUs. And so those could be with utilities or townships or other parcels where we need to get an MOU approved. Otherwise, you can generally see the status that matches the map on page 6. And then moving forward, the control structures on the southern embankment, we've made good progress on the red structure. I got a handful of negotiations ongoing there. On the southern embankment, we're actively working on southern embankment reach 1. And as you can tell, we've acquired a few parcels there, but negotiations are sort of, stumbling along on southern embankment reach 1. The other area that I would point out that we're actively working on negotiations is the I-29 area. And in a similar fashion, we have a number of property owners who are engaging in negotiations, but we have not yet reached terms on prices. Status update for the upstream area, both on the North Dakota side, and then page 13 shows the Minnesota side. So that's a usual monthly report. Happy to answer any questions on that if you have any.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone have any questions? And we are on time with all of these?
There are a few acquisitions for the Southern Embankment Reach 1 and I-29 that are delayed from when the Corps had originally requested them. We have been in communication with the Corps, making sure they're aware of those delays, and some of the delays are because the design has been changed and a variety of factors. But so we're trying to control that schedule to the extent that we're capable.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else have any questions, concerns, clarifications? Okay. Then let's go on to item 5, the mitigation plan overview.
Yeah, up on the screen here is page 15 of the packet, and this is a 4-page overview of the mitigation plan. Since this committee has met, the North Dakota Office of State Engineer has approved the mitigation plan for the project, and so that was a real big step for us. They did give their approval on June 1st. And so this informational sheet here, 4 pages, aims to summarize and provide a high-level overview of several of the mitigation components within the overall plan. Much of the content of this 4-page document is related to agricultural mitigation, and as the committee is aware, we've talked about flowage easements, we've talked about the NDSU Ag study, we've talked about the Farmstead Reestablishment Program. All of those programs are detailed in the overall mitigation plan, and this document here in front of you has a summary of those points. I wanted to share this with the committee just as a way to let everybody know that we did have the state engineer approve the mitigation plan, which again was a big step. I would point to page 18, however. At the bottom of page 18, you can see the implementing flowage easements, and there's a map shown in the lower right corner with a draft stamp on it, and then a description of the 4 different zones. As the group is also likely aware, we did have the hearing for the contested case on the Minnesota DNR permit over the last few weeks. And this map, the full version of this map, got quite a bit of attention through that contested case hearing process. We've had some subsequent discussions with the DNR staff, and over the next month or so, we are hoping to be engaging with their staff and really solidifying the mitigation areas that are going to be required on the Minnesota side. As it was discussed during the contested case hearing, the North Dakota state engineer approved the mitigation boundaries on the North Dakota side, but that has not yet been approved on the Minnesota side. And so the map is staff draft for two reasons. One, because of that Minnesota coordination piece that we need to get through. And secondly, we're continuing to work with FEMA. The modeling group is continuing to work with FEMA on the Clomer approval. And so still holding some optimism that in the next month-ish or so, we'll be able to work with FEMA to get the Clomer approval and work with the DNR to make sure we have the right boundaries shown on this map. And then when that's done, we'll be engaging with, communicating with those property owners. So in the meantime, this is draft 4-page mitigation overview. And again, lots of information in here. It may be a little bit intimidating for fresh eyes, but the feedback we've heard from property owners is they would like to know more information. And so we certainly look forward to getting input from you and any others that would like to weigh in on this document before we propose sending it out to the property owners.
Thank you, Eric. I really like this. I think it summarizes our plan, quite well without being too bulky. It's a complicated, lengthy mitigation plan if you're to want to sit and read the whole thing, but this is really helpful. I would just encourage our committee members to read through this, and if you have questions, let's get them answered. And does anyone have any questions? And you say, Eric, this has not yet been released?
This version is posted. Well, when we got the North Dakota State Engineer approval of the mitigation plan, there was a press release. I assume many of you received that. We did have this document go out with that press release, and so it is posted on the project website. We have not mailed it to any of the property owners yet, and so it's one of those things where we wanted to be responsive and provide the summary as quickly as we could, but recognize that there's probably still some opportunity for review and edits and comments, and especially this draft map on page 18.
Okay. Questions for Eric? Comments? All right, then we will move on to item 6, recommendations for utility relocation easement.
Sure, I can take this one as well. On page 19 of your packet is a letter. And this letter is basically asking the committee to confirm that it is appropriate to allow the Cass County Joint Water Resource District to grant an easement to a cell tower company because there's a cell tower in the footprint of the channel that we have a responsibility to relocate. And over the last several months, we've been working with that cell tower company to identify potential replacement sites. And through those discussions, we've identified a site on OIN 728. The map here on page 20, I'll zoom into that here a little bit. So the existing cell tower this is 40th Avenue. So this is the Eagle Run development. This is cell tower located just west of the Cheyenne diversion channel. And that cell tower is in the footprint of the channel. So we have acquired parcel 728 in its entirety, and we proposed a few different locations to move this tower to. And over the last few months, they've done some propagation studies with the cell tower, the vendors, Verizon, et cetera, that rent space off of that tower. And they've confirmed that this location is satisfactory to them. And so we are proposing that we would grant them an easement on this site to help expedite the relocation of the tower, to get it out of the way as quickly as possible to allow construction to proceed. And given that, there's been some discussions in the past about what do we do with these asset lands that have been acquired for the project, we thought it was appropriate to ask the committee for, at least a blessing and, well, at a minimum awareness, and if agreed, a blessing to allow the Cass County Joint Water Resource District to grant this postage stamp size easement on parcel 728 for the purposes of relocating that tower.
So did we have to purchase this land specifically for this easement, or did we already have it?
We had bought this parcel prior to this easement request coming up, and so it was sort of a convenient opportunity for us.
But it's outside the footprint.
Yeah, so I can zoom in here just a little bit closer to give you. So the crosshatched area is where the channel and embankments and stuff will be constructed, and as you can see, we're proposing that the easement area would be just outside of the project limits, the small access road over here to 15th Street South or 15th Street West. So the easement would be defined to give them this small postage stamp with a small access road.
And then we have to pay for relocating that cell phone tower?
Yeah, and that's a responsibility of the project. Those utilities that are in the way because the project is requiring them to be relocated, that's one of our responsibilities. So finding a site that is close by and suitable to them seems to be a way to expedite the relocation of that cell phone tower.
Was there any controversy with picking this site?
No, it's actually gone very smooth. Good coordination with the cell tower company, good coordination. Well, they had coordination on their side with the Sprint and Verizon and whoever rents space on that tower. But so far it's gone real well. And I guess next steps, if the committee here is okay with sort of concurring with this approach, then we will be asking the joint board tomorrow morning to consider entering into that easement. We'll supply a draft version of the easement to the cell tower company. They'll review it and they'll probably be back and forths and moving
Okay.
things.
Who else has questions? Anyone? Questions or comments from anyone? Since we don't have a quorum, I guess I would just ask if there's anyone that has any concerns about this. If not, I guess my feeling would be it sounds good. You could deliver that message to the Cass Joint Board that we discussed it and there were no objections. Unless somebody has an objection or concern, please step forth and let us know. Okay, then let's move on to item 7, the committee update for the DA board. What's that?
So each month I work to produce just one quick slide that could be used for the committee to provide a high-level update to the DA board. And so I wanted to share this one slide with the committee, and I guess, Mary, if you're okay with this, we can pull this up during the board meeting tomorrow. Just a few points to walk through this. There's been no new appraisals since the last meeting. We've got all the appraisal work done so far, but there's going to be a bunch more appraisals, of course, starting on the southern embankment and upstream area, hopefully soon. On the acquisitions, again, we've acquired 10 parcels since the last meeting. On formal negotiations, there are several steps in that process, and you can see the number of properties in each one of those steps. This invite to Cass County, you'll see that is 0. After tomorrow morning, we expect that number to change. I guess we have a request for the Cass County Joint Board tomorrow morning. Again, I'll touch on that in a minute. So the joint board is proceeding with all those processes to acquire the necessary property rights. BioGeo, again, we've made good progress in getting access secured to nearly all of the sites, with the exception of a few that we're waiting for a court date. Mitigation plan approved. We talked about that. On this outreach planning, I guess we're anxiously awaiting to get final boundaries and Colmer approval so we can do the outreach to property owners. And then two things that are just ongoing. One is that flowage easement valuation update, and two is the crop insurance development study with Watson Associates. Kind of give a snapshot of what's going on in the lands program.
Great. Any questions on that item? Well, we're just clicking right along here, guys. I think I heard, was Roger on this call or not? Or if somebody want to update us on the joint board? Or is that going to be you too, Eric?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if Roger or Dan or anybody is on, but I definitely wanted to make sure the land committee was aware of a couple actions that we will be asking of the joint board tomorrow morning. As I've alluded to here in this meeting, tomorrow we have in front of the Cass County Joint Board an action item to approve requesting that Cass County invite the first batch of property owners to a meeting in early August. And so those invites to the property owners have to be received 30 days prior to the meeting. And we've got a first batch of 5 different property owners that we are proposing to the joint board tomorrow morning. They will, I guess, assuming they go along with the request, they will send a request to the county administrator. County administrator will invite those property owners to a meeting of the county commission on August 3rd. And at that August 3rd meeting, the Cass County Joint Board will be asking the county commission for approval to utilize quick take eminent domain. And so I wanted to make sure that the committee was fully aware of that. We did discuss this and share this information at the outreach committee just before this, and we've had a handful of discussions with various leadership and elected folks. And so I guess from my standpoint, I'm wanting to make sure people are aware and no surprises. But that being said, this is starting to get into the tougher parts of the acquisition process. And so it's likely that we're going to have some property owners that are not going to be happy with that. And we've been communicating with these folks to the extent that they're willing to communicate with us. And so I guess wanted the committee to be aware of that. The other action that we will be asking for approval from the county commission or the Cass County Joint Board tomorrow morning is that a few of these properties that we're getting close to this county commission involvement, a few of those properties happen to be occupied structures, whether it's houses or businesses or whatever. And under the statutes, we're required to give them a minimum 90-day notice to vacate. And so because we need to remove the structures from the site before we grant access of the land to the P3 developer, and because the P3 developers need some assurance through their bidding process that the land will be acquired and the structures will be removed, we're at a point where we need to start sending those 90-day notices to vacate as well. And so again, that's one of the tougher parts of the acquisition process. And so tomorrow morning, we'll be asking the joint board for approval to, again, request action from the county commission, and to approve the sending of some 90-day vacate notices. So your joint board members are working hard, and I think they've got the support of the DA committees in Cass County and other Fargo and others, but this is going to get more serious here over the next few months.
Certainly, and I appreciate that. One question I have, because it's been a while, I think, since we've talked to legislators regarding this, has there been any outreach to legislators, particularly, and I'm talking Cass County legislators, but particularly those in the areas that are affected? I guess I want to make sure that they understand our protocol. I know I had a conversation with one yesterday, and there seemed to be some confusion exactly what our process is. And I know it's, this is the first time we're going to be using this particular process.
I guess, I don't know if Joel is on, but I know probably a month or so ago, Joel did send an email to, I believe, all legislators in North Dakota, very clearly letting them know that we're likely going to be asking approval to use quick take eminent domain this fall. And so that message was sent out. I don't know that there's been any more specific or personal touches with area legislators beyond that. There may have, and I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I may. Yeah, Eric's correct. We did send out notice to the entire legislative body, clearly laying out our intentions for quick take in the last half of the year here. I did not receive much feedback from that correspondence. Obviously, it's through email, so it's a little bit less formal. I have been approached this week by some of the area legislators, and so I am setting up meetings, and we intend to sit down with each of them and explain the process and answer any questions that they may have.
Okay, great. Maybe we can talk offside on specific questions I've been getting that you might want to address. But I think particularly for Cass County legislators, it's important that they probably know more of the details of how we do this and the entire process that we go through, that it's pretty methodical. So just want to make sure everyone understands.
Yep, absolutely.
What we're doing. Okay, anybody else have comments or questions? Okay, Minnesota. JJ, is that you? Mayor Judd.
Yep, I am here. I was absent at the last lands meeting for the MCCJPA. I'm not sure if Kevin would like to give an update on that if he's available.
Yeah, I think I gave an update on the last meeting already. I know we're meeting again tomorrow. I don't know if Eric wants to go over what we have on the action agenda item for tomorrow or not. But.
Sure. Maybe just a few quick points on the MCCJPA side. We have been approached by a handful of property owners who asked for early acquisition, and we've reached terms with a few of those. So I think generally that's a good situation when property owners are asking to sell. That's generally a better time to buy. So over the last month, we've worked out some deals with people and had quite a good back and forth on the eaches of some of the lease back agreements and things. So tomorrow we'll basically just provide a general update. There's just one small action item in front of the board, routine reimbursement for some moving costs. Other than that, things are relatively quiet at this point on the Minnesota side.
Okay, thank you, Minnesota. Then let's move on to the MetroCog update. And it's not the Altenburg Greenway, right? It's the Agassiz Greenway, or are we changing the name? A little levity here, but it could be the Sherland Speedway or something too. I don't know. Maybe we could come up with something a little more creative than Agassiz. I mean, I'm the least creative person I know, but it'd be a great contest for people to have.
Yes, it would be.
Adam, go ahead.
Alrighty, thank you, Madam Chair. Just another quick update on the Greenway study for you today. First off, going back to last week, we did have a very good public engagement meeting that we held online in conjunction with our team from SRF Consulting Group and Contour Design. Had over 65 people that we could count in attendance, and we had a lot of good questions and enthusiasm from the public. The only issue we did receive troubling feedback on had to do with the name our team had chosen for the project. It's an issue we're very thankful to have heard from the community about, and if it is something you do have additional questions about, I can go into it a little more detail here. Though we have sent out a press release about the issue, and we'll have additional information about it on MetroCog's website and Facebook page. Moving forward, though, at least through the end of the project, we'll be referring to it simply as the FM Greenway Recreation Master Plan, and potentially looking at additional branding options with the community after the project concludes later this year. The naming issue has affected our current draft materials, including a detailed informational video that we produced, as well as a draft plan and an online survey that we have. So we're making changes.
On again, and I'll get you all set up. Okay, that's fine.
As swiftly as we can. Our current plan is still to have these materials for public review, though, through Friday, July 10th. But with all that, we will be looking to do outreach with city and county leaders here in July and August as we wrap up the recreation plan, and depending on available time, may look to do a more in-depth look at the project with this committee in the next month or two. But with that, though, I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Okay, well, Adam, I think the plans that I've seen out, come out of your group have just been really super exciting. I hope I live to see it all completed. I know it's going to take some time, but it's great to have that vision, and I think someday people are going to look back on this and be happy that we made room for this in our plan. So, questions from anyone on the recreational component?
Commissioner Shirley?
Yes, Commissioner Brightling.
I have a question for Adam.
Sure.
The information that I provided you concerning inputs on the flows, has that been updated into your program?
We did talk with our consultant team about that. I don't believe the information that we discussed a couple of weeks ago made it into the draft that's currently online. We're making revisions though this week though, so I will touch base here tomorrow to see if some additional information has been incorporated based on your comments.
And I think I gave you the engineer's name at More Engineering to confirm.
Yes. Yep.
And could you clarify what flows you're talking about?
Well, the flows at both the Cheyenne and the Maple River diversion will not be completely sent over the top. Only a certain amount of the flow would be, and the rest will actually enter on an annual basis into the channel. Additionally, the plans now call for drain 14 to be directed into the channel south of 94, just west of the Raymond interchange. And that item obviously was not up to date really from the technical point of view, and so the flows that will be in that channel are more than what was anticipated, at least publicly.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for your input on that. Anyone else? And I point out that Commissioner Breitling has been observing this meeting. He didn't have a mic or a video prior to this, but if you could mark him present And I believe we now have we have enough people to make a vote. We have quorum. Is that
We
correct?
took a quorum.
Okay, good. Then at this time, we'll just, did you have anything else, Adam?
No, I don't, not this time.
Okay, any other questions for MetroCog? Then I'll just pop back up to the May 27th, 2020 minutes. Could I get any corrections, additions, or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there a second?
Second by Breitling.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? All those opposed, say aye. I'm sorry. Not sure, did I hear someone that was in opposition? Okay, then the motion carries. Do we have any other business? Eric, you got anything else for us?
It's probably the nicest day of the year outside, so that I suggest we end early.
And I'm not on the finance committee, so I don't know about the rest of you, but yeah, we're out of here. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, one moment, I apologize. I would just like to mention that we're planning to try to do in-person meetings next month. So just so the committee knows.
All right, thank you. Subject to change, I assume.
That's correct.
Well, let's hope we're all healthy between now and then. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
And a second. A second. Come on.
Second.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
Second.